Although the idea of old age style and late style appeared in German essays on art history in the first part of the 20th century, it's not until the 1980s that art historians seriously began to investigate images of older people in art, especially images created by elderly artists. Initially, the focus was old age style and on categorizing the different depictions of old age. As reported by David Rosand in Papers on Aging, delivered at the 1985 conference at the College Art Association in Los Angeles, researchers were able to identify some of the common elements of the style, noting intensity of expression, formal ambiguity, and less attention in detail in works by Michelangelo, Titian, Rembrandt, and de Kooning. More recently, some scholars have challenged stereotypical interpretations of old age by examining the different ways one can grow old and how these have been treated in art. Their considerations have included how aging artists see themselves, the hazards and blessings of being old and active, the elderly in the community, and the old age in myths. In response to the interest that followed these investigations, exhibitions were held that introduced new viewpoints on the older artist theme and their old age style. In the 1990s, group exhibitions that showcased various responses of artists were Rites of Passage at the Tate Gallery in London, Die Macht des Alters in the Kronprinzenpalais in Berlin, and The Time of Our Lives held at the New Museum of Contemporary Art in New York. Mona Hatoun, Robert Gober, Louise Bourgeois, and Micha Lexier exemplify the diverse variety of aging-related visual imagery that began to surface during this era. These works examined the myth of an old age style, the themes of illness and death, the problems facing mature artists in an era of rapidly shifting art forms, and contesting the widespread belief that aging is a period of decline, images and models of the aging process that took positive aspects into account. In Canada, perhaps the most well-known artist to recently examine the concerns of the aging artist is Vera Frenkel, who was born in 1938, winner of the Governor General's Award in Visual Arts and Media in 2006, and creator of the Institute, or What We Do for Love. This work imagines a world wherein hospitals have been turned into retirement homes for employees of the CBC, the Canada Council for the Arts, and other arts organizations. Photographs, diagrams, and furnishings that were on view at the National Gallery of Canada in the fall of 2006 can be seen on a website that contains staff profiles, chats with residents, and contributions by artists. The Institute, Frenkel writes, is a professional and residential haven providing support to some of the leading artists of our time. The only criterion is that artists must be over 50 years of age and in the full bloom of their creativity. The Institute is directly related to Frenkel's own aging, the effects of illness on her physical well-being, and her realization that her work has become simpler and more refined as she ages. The works of contemporary artists are analogous in significant respects with the findings of feminist gerontologists, who as healthcare professionals conduct research on the aging process and the living environments of older persons in an effort to understand and enrich the lives of the elderly. My analysis of Marion Wagschal's paintings, the subject of today's presentation, was guided by the explorations of Simon Biggs, who considers himself a feminist gerontologist, who studied the features shared by critical gerontology and contemporary feminism as exposed in the work of two theorists, Jean Baudrillard and Judith Butler. Baudrillard argues in his theory of signification that signs, images, and signifiers in today's postmodern society are free of any attachment to the objects or situations in which they originated. For Biggs, this disconnection means that somebody who is older, for example, a woman artist, may choose to adopt any identity or personal image she wishes. In fact, disconnection is a process that has 4 stages. In the first stage, a representation corresponds to a pre-existing reality. In the second, it transforms into a mask that disguises the reality. Next, the mask becomes an inner emptiness that hides the absence of any core reality. Finally, this leads to signs that no longer have any relation to an underlying reality. By interpreting Wagschal's works in relation to these 4 stages of Baudrillard's, I was able to reveal the implications of Wagschal's aging. Another influence on my analysis of Wagschal was Butler's assertion that gender and sexuality are performances that become fixed because of expected male and female behaviors. Her insistence that a woman's opposing stance can be an act of self-creation in an otherwise hostile space offers a feminist reading of Wagschal's works. Major themes in these works, such as the marginalization of female experience, the tension between personal and social identities, and how women adopt artifice to deal with the subtle complexities of everyday living, connect with Butler's ideas. Throughout her career, Marion Wagschal, who was born in 1943, has consistently explored the human figure. What absorbs her are the intimate moments, portraits not of the monumental, but of the everyday. In her work, she never idealizes or romanticizes the human body. Rather, her figures are aged and tired, signifying the artist's refusal to mimic the art world's preoccupation with beauty and perfection, and her denial of the society's obsession with the ideal. Wagschal's full-length figures embody the commonplace. Wrinkled and imperfect in countless ways, they are suggestive of both the liabilities and promises of being human. Now, in her late 60s, Wagschal has been focusing on her own personal and social experiences of aging. In the doll's birthday party, several dolls are attending a birthday party along with an unusual assortment of people from Trinidad, where Wagschal lived when she was a young child. They are all apparitions from another place and time, gathered around a cake in the living room of the artist's childhood home, which is overshadowed by a huge glass cabinet and a bay of windows overlooking a seascape at sunset. Depicted at close range is Marion as a young girl staring at her mother and father, who have fallen asleep following the act of making love. These disconnected images from Wagschal's past capture a reality that forms the basis of her self-narrative as an older person. The dolls are neither children nor adults, but intense spirit characters with haunting expressions that create an uncanny space where visual perceptions connect with memories through the logic of a dream. In this dreamlike state, the unconscious and conscious are relevant to the understanding of meaning. Indeed, The intimate portrait of Wagschal's mother lying with her husband after making love links with the artist's formation of identity. As Baudrillard explains, a fantasy still passes through the figures of the mother and the father, sexed parental figures that the subject can dream of effacing by substituting himself or herself for them, but without denying the symbolic structure of procreation at all. Becoming one's own child is still being someone's child. Significantly, Wagshall completed this painting when her mother was dying. In this context, the work also suggests what Baudrillard refers to as the dream of an eternal twinning substituted for sexual procreation that is linked to death. Given this intertwining of Wagshall's reality with her mother's, we can see that her own aging face in Old Girl is derived from the face of her dead mother, as depicted in the drawing Dead, down to the same creases and lines. Furthermore, her mother's sexuality, a fundamental aspect of her female nature, even as an older woman, has become self-defining for Wagshall. In Bluebird's Castle, we witness a sexual encounter that is similar to the one found in Doll's Birthday Party, but this one is more complete. The full bodies of Wagshall and her lover lean back on an oversized recliner set in the middle of a large room decorated with 2 hunter's trophies, one a lion's head, the other a deer's. To the left of the same cabinet from Wagshall's youth that appears in Doll's Birthday Party, the male and sexual positions are now reversed so that the woman's body is on top. In this painting, Wagshall is sexually charged and confident, and secure enough as an older woman to express her dominant side. On top, she has the opportunity to freely change the rhythm and direction of her movement and to get as much stimulation as she needs to reach orgasm. She's also in control of her lover's excitement, and through her movements up and down his erection, she can keep him on the brink of ejaculation until deciding to stimulate him over the edge into orgasm. A little sex education. According to Butler, older identities are a contradiction. We are the same people we were when we were young, yet we're supposed to think of old age as somehow opposite. As a result, we identify and reject the aging process at the same time. Wagshall embraces the power of the older woman who is sexually active, understands her desires, and is uninhibited enough to transgress the boundaries of typical male and female behaviors. Moreover, in depicting a backside pose that only shows those parts of her body that still look young and good, the artist colludes with the cult of youth. Missing from view are the assaults on Wagshall's aging form, the sagging breast, big belly, and wrinkled face. In comparison with the mottled complexion of the man beneath her, whose rugged features and balding head mark him as aged, Wagshall's soft, pinkish white skin, voluptuous shape, and ponytail hairstyle mask her corporeality and equate youth with beauty. The signs of aging we see in Doll's Birthday Party and Old Girl meld Wagshall's person with her mother. Bluebird's Castle, on the other hand, despite the associations with Doll's Birthday, disguises the artist's aging by emphasizing the youthful vestiges of her body. This masking becomes impossible psychologically and physically in the next 2 paintings I will discuss, Pariah and Big Mouth. In the first, Wagshall is rejected because she is an older woman who no longer coheres with socially acceptable behaviors In the second, her rejection is brought about by the physical insults wrought by old age. In both Pariah and Big Mouth, Wagschal references Tiepolo's drawings of Puccinello. She explains, "I have been thinking about that character a lot. They are supposed to be like pranksters, kind of shit disturbers. When you're at that point and you have nothing to lose, there is that kind of abandon. You can be quite transgressive and threatening to people around you because you don't care anymore." Later in life, Tiepolo drew about 100 ink and wash drawings of the boorish, low-life character Puccinello, who originated in largely improvisational Commedia dell'arte street theater of early 17th century in Italy. In Pariah, Wagshall takes on Puccinello's physical features, the rounded belly, long beak-like nose, and baggy white clothes, as well as his temperament, mean and crafty. Standing alone, estranged from the other partygoers, the artist is a pitiful figure, oversized and formless. She compares badly to the beautiful woman in the distance who is surrounded by a crowd of admirers. The woman, probably the artist's memory of her younger self, stares knowingly in her direction as if to say, "Look what you have become in your older age, a social outcast." Wagshall peers unrelenting from behind her mask, her bug-like eyes widened in response to the woman's hawkish stare. She is a buffoonish misfit who has donned a pathetic clown costume as armor. Wagshall's defense is to pretend she is too stupid to know what's going on. As an aging woman, Wagshall is not only alone in public, she was also alone in the private sphere of her home. In Big Mouth, she sits naked on the edge of her bed, the sheets crumpled behind her, as if she has recently awakened from a sleepless night. The angle of her pose discloses the typical signs of aging: excessive flabby flesh, broad hips, and protruding stomach. Big Mouth and Pariah imply that old age is an absence, the result of social invisibility and personal emptiness. In terms of how a woman envisions her feminized identity, old age is the double void of not being male and not being young. Previously youthful and fully visible, the older woman is discarded by a male-dominant, youth-obsessed society, leading her to become psychologically depressed. Ironically, this depressing state has a positive side, in that it opens up the possibility of creating new identity in personal images. Being male-like is one identity that Wagshall assumes, but in various guises, sexually in the coupling of Bluebird's Castle, and alone as seen in Big Mouth, where she is depicted sitting like a man, legs apart, and hand pressed down on her thigh, sporting large boots and closely cropped hair. She evokes an ambiguous sexuality that is more male than female. This is her attempt to construct a defense through male toughness and anger. Butler explains that breaking away from constraining normative frames is more than a performance. Female empowerment is made possible by reinscribing the codes of gender from within. This female empowerment is seen at its most pronounced, I think, in Dog Bath and Puccinello's Bath. Still wearing the Puccinello mask that shrouds her facial expressions, Wagshall's monolithic, naked body becomes responsible for communicating the powerful agency of her inner self. In the privacy of her bath, she is no longer grotesque and deformed. Rather, she is a woman and an artist who inhabits an ever-creating body. Dog Bath is both tender and satirical, linking with Wagshall's fond memories of the dogs she grew up with and contrasting with the insult of calling undesirable women old dogs. As she leans out of her tub to gently stroke her pet, his eyes express sympathy and everlasting love. In this private exchange between dog and woman, As Wagshall allows her body to respond to the sensations of belonging to the natural order of life, she connects with her animal spirit. With this affirmation, Puccinella's mask no longer resembles the beak the beak of a bird of prey, but the long furry nose of a friendly pet. In this painting, and in Puccinella's bathing, the exposed body, startling, intimate, and provocative, and representative of matter-of-fact reality, is beautiful because of its uncompromising truth. In this talk on Marion Wagschal, I've attempted to show the complexities inherent in creating images related to a woman's aging. This includes the way the artist represents her own physical aging, the choices she makes as to disguise her identity, how aging is evoked as an absence of meaning, and how aging can comprise many identities. There are a number of themes that arise from discussing Wagschal's works: how women experience old age, gender and aging with regards to the older body, and how aging relates to social issues and collective identity, the personal impact of aging, the relationship with cultural norms, and the self-respect and dignity of later life are also addressed. Those themes are not only declare the meaning of the passage of time and the value of life, but on a larger scale shows how the story of aging is woven together with the story of being an older woman artist. Thank you.